How is it going, everyone? We're gonna cover in this video one thing I always like to cover, and that is some sales stats. And in regards to Stellar Blade, as more data is coming out about the game, it is seemingly doing very well. I always like to assess various data points, and I think sometimes we look at things like social media metrics and social media dialogue and we take that too seriously, but social media dialogue is certainly a worthwhile metric to analyze, but you need more metrics, you need more data, and we have a very important piece of data in regards to Stellar Blade's performance. We'll talk about that. Bit of an update on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and that game's performance from a sales standpoint. That game has been under fire a little bit for its seemingly lackluster performance data, but we'll talk about that as well. But right off the top, continuing the discussion about Stellar Blade, it has debuted at #1 on the UK charts. Now, not like the game had a ton of competition, but there were titles such as Mario Kart 8, which is surprisingly still pushing a staggering amount of copies, Top Spin 2K25, which just came out as well, and a bunch of other titles. But Stellar Blade debuting at #1 as a PlayStation 5 only title, while it's rather impressive, I also think it was somewhat expected, but certainly a good stat to also have. And talking about the statistics with Stellar Blade, I'm surprised how many people I've seen in the comments section talk about that they are surprised that the game is doing as well as it is from a reception standpoint, as well as things like the Metacritic data and seeing the user score on that, it being the highest rated PlayStation 5 game of all time, and that is because of some of the dialogue that they saw on social media as far as people pushing back on the game for its aspects, as I like to call it. Now, social media dialogue can be important. It can be something to analyze, and what I always think about things like social media metrics, social media posts, even YouTube videos and things like that, it's all data. Data is never a bad thing to have when you assess how a game is going to do or how a game is doing. However, it's how you analyze the data. You can't take one piece of data and get warped too much over it. So something like social media metrics and social media data and social media posts in general, where Stellar Blade was such a discussion point prior to the game coming out, and even on launch day, some of that has died down. But what you guys, if you don't understand how the social media game is played, it's all about engagement. That is what powers the algorithm. So if I want engagement on a post, if I want engagement on an audio clip that people will interact with, it's better that I say something a little bit outlandish and a little bit controversial. For example, this is just throwing this out there, but if I say a statement like Stellar Blade is a disgrace to gaming and it is a disgrace to women all around planet Earth, that is going to be a statement that incites a little bit of controversy, and it is going to fuel a ton of engagement. Engagement thus fuels that statement into the algorithm, which makes it more visible to a lot more people. That piece of data I wouldn't take as seriously as, let's say, 2,000 people giving their user score on Metacritic, even if Metacritic can be skewed, even if Metacritic isn't the best thing in the world. 2,000 is a decent sample size where a lot of people are giving their input. I would look at metrics like that. I would look at metrics like it debuting at #1 on the sales chart. I would look at a lot of different metrics, and then you can overall come to a conclusion. Yes, that statement that I just made, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. I literally just pulled it out of thin air. But for example, that is a statement that is going to drive a lot of engagement, so you're gonna see it all over social media. It's really how you assess the data, and what I've always thought is data is always good to have, but you can't get so worked up on one piece of data over the other. There are times where social media reception and social media dialogue is incredibly important, especially when it's the overwhelming majority. Stellar Blade, it really was never the overwhelming majority. I just think people saw a couple things here and there that they perceived, again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but they perceived to be a little bit out there and something that they disagreed with, and a lot of people disagreed with, but it was very much active and it was engaged with, thus propelling it in the social media stratosphere, and you were seeing a lot of that. But if you actually peel away the layers, A lot of people were excited about Stellar Blade. It wasn't pushing away the sales, any of that. I literally think all of those elements of Stellar Blade propelled this game even higher. So I don't know if anybody was really doom-mongering the game and wanted the game to fail because of the way the game is, but really, if you were a part of that, you probably elevated this game's recognition. You probably didn't have the intention to, but that is seemingly what has happened with Stellar Blade. There's that statement that all PR is good PR. I don't necessarily agree with that, but for Stellar Blade, I think the discussion around the game, secondary to the biggest element of this game being a success, which is that the game is good. Let's not get that element twisted. The game is really good. That is first and foremost the absolute most important part. But there's a lot of really good games that come out that don't do all too well commercially. A lot of really, really great games come out that don't do all too well from a sales standpoint. So just keep that in mind as well. I know a little bit of a diatribe, but I feel like it's important when so many people were talking about this game, and if you really want to assess sales numbers and things like that, and how a game is performing, you have to have multiple pieces of data sets, and I think with Stellar Blade, as more of these, more information comes out. Again, you don't have to take the Metacritic user score all too seriously. Metacritic user scores is what it is, but you don't have to take the Metacritic critic scores seriously either. But stuff like #1 on the UK sales chart, that's important to a degree. And I would even say the user score and the reception that people have had and the dialogue that you're seeing, that's important to a degree. To a degree for all of the data that you see, some more than others, but it's how you analyze and assess every single data point that's important. All right, moving on from that, Matt Piscatella, analyst, did note Final Fantasy VII Rebirth currently ranks 14th across all Final Fantasy releases in lifetime dollar sales in the US market. Final Fantasy 15 is first all time, followed by Final Fantasy VII Remake and the original Final Fantasy VII. Now, a lot to digest. That looks like a very, very negative stat for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think there's more layers to this. Again, it's how you put context to this data as well. This tweet does not include the Final Fantasy VII Twin Pack that was released on the PlayStation Store. Remember, if you pre-ordered FF7 Rebirth, you had the option to buy the Twin Pack that included the Remake Integrated Edition and FF7 Rebirth. Same price as the regular release. On top of that, yes, you can say the 7 Remake outsold FF7 Rebirth. If you thought anything else was gonna happen, you were completely out of your mind. You were absolutely insane if you thought Rebirth was gonna sell more than Remake. First of all, Rebirth came out at a time where there are far less PS5s in the wild than there are PS4s when the remake came out. The remake came out towards the end of the PS4's life. Oh, by the way, the world was shut down when the remake came out as well. Oh, and by the way, if you want to play Rebirth, I don't give a damn what Square Enix is saying. You damn well better have played the FF7 remake if you want to play Rebirth. FF7 remake, people were just jumping into it and you were able to play it. All those factors, you got to contextualize everything as far as the stats go, and with Rebirth, I don't think the sales numbers that I've been seeing people doom-mongering this game, maybe it's a disappointment, but at the end of it, it ranking so low is to be expected. But remember, with this trilogy, Remake, Rebirth, the subsequent third title, it is going to be something that they can monetize for years and years and years. FF7 Remake came out, then they dropped Intergrade on PlayStation 5, and then they got, Epic Game Store money, then they got Steam money. It goes on and on and on. Rebirth's gonna be the same thing. Ultimately, they'll release a triple pack with all of it collected, and it'll be $70, and it'll be on the PS6. You guys gotta think about the bigger picture when it comes to something like Rebirth. Obviously, would Square Enix have liked to have this game sell more? Sure, but Sony's also paying for exclusivity. If this game was available on all platforms, I'm not saying it would have sold insane on Xbox Series, but it would have sold okay, I would think, and on Steam and PC, I think it would have done fairly well. I think as the PC market is growing, that's going to be an avenue for a lot of these publishers to make money. And when you're locking away a Stellar Blade, when you're locking away an FF7 Rebirth from the PC market, which I damn well think is bigger than the Xbox market at this stage of the game, that is the bigger element when you do have a PS5 exclusive release, timed exclusive these days because they all get ported to PC at some point, but Day one not being on PC, I do think you're slashing away a lot of sales. Now, to be fair, again, FF7 Remake was a Day 1 PlayStation 4 only title, but the game will continue to grow in sales. Is it disappointing? Maybe, maybe not. I'm just offering a little bit of context for why the number might be lower than some of you guys have expected. But if anybody was expecting the game to sell as well as the remake, like, you were just out of your mind. There were so many factors working against it as far as that's concerned. But that'll do it for me. Definitely interested to hear what you guys think. Again, sales numbers isn't everybody's favorite thing to talk about, but when it comes to a new IP like Stellar Blade, especially one with so much discussion around it, I feel like this is going to be one that people definitely do want to analyze. And FF7 Rebirth, it's been a discussion point as well for a little while, but I wanted to talk about that, at least give some context as to why the game might not be performing as well as the remake, and I feel like those of you guys that can use a single brain cell can figure that out. But that'll do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts. And let me say as well, that is not to say the FF7 Rebirth, the part 2 of the remake, is a slam dunk home run. I'm just giving you guys some context as to why it might have underperformed. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.